Feel like a farm with all these rotations of goats on this show here today. Because next up, we got a dose of Dion. Join the boys. What up, though, man?
Hey, I was gonna say, man, we got to give a clap for those reads because I'm sitting there watching it. And I don't even think you're looking at it. Like, you're just killing those ad reads, by the way. So I got to give you a clap for that. That was pretty awesome.
Dude, I do them twice a day, every day. They're burned into my memory by now.
But it was good though. It was good, man. Hey, it's good to see y'all again.
Oh, it's always good to have you on the show, dude. Appreciate you joining us. Did you hear any of our conversation with One Bar? We had one.
I heard the ending of it. I heard just the ending of it, like the last couple minutes.
He was gushing about the Lions draft. He was saying, you know, obviously Terrion and Rakestraw, it was great, a 1-2 punch, but the guys he liked later in the draft with Mahogany and Mekhi Wingo, you said, like, those are steals. So even Vikings fans are in love with what Brad Holmes is doing.
Yeah, I remember talking to shout out to One Bar right after the draft, and he brought up specifically the Mekhi Wingo one. It was as the one that he was like, dang, he shouldn't have been available at that spot. You know, I showed the Vikings some love too. You know, I showed them some because I like the Vikings aggressiveness, but my goodness, okay, people get on about like what we gave up last year for Manu, for example, get him a 3rd round pick. Vikings got a 1st round pick and 2 5th round picks next season. So maybe they'll end up with some comp picks, but they have like nothing next season.
Yeah, really, really nothing. And it's tough to see where they're going to be building from. But what the Lions are building towards is just a Super Bowl. And we've had this argument. We did our all NFC North teams. We did our offense yesterday. We're going to do our defense today. And Easy went under a little fire from the fans because he put Jordan Love above Jared Goff in his NFC North quarterback ranking. So where are you on the Jordan Love versus Jared Goff?
Easy should get fined. All right, we're gonna find Jamal Murray. We should sign Easy for that. I mean, this is look, yo, that's just one of those things. It's like even if there was like a sliver of you believe that Easy, it just can't happen. All right, we cannot see that. All right, that can't happen. I think that brings bad vibes. Look, man, you know where I'm at with the whole situation, but I don't even know how to talk on this one because Jordan Love did ball out. Like Jordan Love did his thing. The second half of the season, he was awesome. I don't like being the guy that like sit here and be like, well, we just need to see more. But I think we truly do need to see more because I just think we need to see like what does he look like versus different defensive looks. I thought the first time we played him versus second time, he was a completely different guy, completely different preparation for us. And he was on top of it second time. So for me, the whole Jordan Love thing is like, we just need to see more. And then beyond that, I mean, I guess it's the same exact thing. We don't even know what these guys are going to look like in the NFL. Part of me believes that long-term, J.J. McCarthy is going to end up being the better quarterback than Caleb Williams. I don't know if that's just like a bias thing or what, but I truly believe that like we'll look back 10 years from now and we're going to see like, yo, J.J. McCarthy, dang, they made it right. Maybe not year one. We may not even see him that much in year one, but down the road, we're going to walk away saying like McCarthy stuck with that team. Caleb Williams may not have.
Wow. Is that just like a Bears quarterback by like the Bears never get good quarterbacks? Because I just find I think Caleb Williams is going to be a stud. Like everything I've seen him do, I think he's going to be really good in the NFL.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, Caleb Williams could play. Like it's when I watch him, like I was expecting like all of like the, you know, the flashy outside of this stuff to be the only thing that stands out. But it's like, nah, he's like really good on time too. Caleb Williams is legit. It is kind of the Bears thing. It's a situation that you go into. I think that plays so much into it, but it's also like more so me just betting on JJ McCarthy rather than like pushing down Caleb Williams. I would just bet on McCarthy. I'd bet on the character. I'd bet on the person. And I'd bet that that's like one of those guys that just down the road, he's not going to fail. Like you're going to make it work at some point. Meanwhile, Caleb, I think there could be just a little more hit and miss with, like you said, the environment that he's landing in.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dion, I was having some headphone difficulties there. Can I ask you this on the Jordan Love front? Actually, I don't even want to do this. I already know what your answer's going to be.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the Packers' record if you swap out quarterbacks in that situation?
Wait, like with Goff and Love? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And last year, what were they last year? Would they win
9-8?
9-8? They were 9-8. I would say if they swapped quarterbacks, what would happen was they would have been off to a better start last season. I think they would have started better last season. I thought it looked really shaky for Jordan Love at the beginning. And then the end of I think Jared Goff could play really well in a Matt LaFleur offense. Like I think his skill set would actually work pretty well in that offense. You may pull back on some of the vertical shots that you take, like when they opened up against us and they just took like a shot down the field. And I thought where Jordan Love thrived was that as the season went on, he was so good off schedule. Like, that's where I give him so much credit, man. His ability to deal with pressure, just keep backing up in the pocket and then just trust that, man, he had a super talented arm and he was just able to fling that thing. Like, he made a lot of plays to give him credit off schedule. I just thought the big difference in the second half of the season was that timing that they were trying to connect on, which everything fell off, started to connect. So I think with Goff, you would have been off to a much hotter start. I don't know where you would have finished record-wise because you would have had to tweak some things. But I will say that what they also have going for them is as many, like, who are their receivers? Like, we had a lot of questions. Like, bro, those dudes were getting open. Jaden Reed was balling out. I know my man Bass was high on Jaden Reed. He was playing his butt off. Wick stepped up. Like, they had legitimate dudes playing really well at receiver last season. So I don't know, Easy. That's a tough one. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they would have been worse. They definitely would have been better with Jared Goff. We understand that. But how much better, I don't know.
I agree. I said they'd be probably right around the same because when he asked me, I think they would have structured the offense differently to play to Jared Goff's strength. And I like that quartet of wide receivers they have. I think are very solid. But
look, the way I saw it is like the offensive line. Their offensive line was ass. That's why Jordan Morgan was like their first pick, right? Like we know our guy, as much as we love him, under duress isn't the best unless he's got that offense, you know, like the back of his hand, like he does now.
Yeah.
And Matt LaFleur does run a nice offense, but watching Jordan Love play last year, I feel like it was a lot of hero ball, which we know it's not our guy's strong suit. Still our guy, though. Still our guy.
Yeah, well, so that's actually funny you say that because, like, right before I got off, I was going to say the Packers' offensive line on paper is, like, way worse than ours. And I won't say that their offensive line compares to ours. Like you said, they just added Jordan Morgan. But they do find a way to just make it work. And I think the big thing that stands out there is that they hide their offensive line really well. And I think they do it with it schematically. Like, it's almost, you could almost like at times feel the kind of same thing with San Fran with Brock Purdy, whereas like his legs could kind of like hide that offensive line. And we saw that in the second half. Credit to Purdy. He was just taking off all over the place. And I think Jordan Love had some of that in him last season where, like Easy said, like he was able to just backpedal, make passes. And it was like, you could kind of minimize that. But I also think that we saw in the first time we played Jordan Love and you saw the pressure that we had. And it was like, man, they can't block anything. We were just all over him. Second time we played them around, that ball's getting out quick. And it was quick. And to me, that is the specific game of the example of, that's why we needed cornerback help. Like, we needed cornerback help because of that team and playing that team and the fact that every time we went to zone, it was a completion. Every time we went to man, about half the time it was completion, half the time it wasn't. So it's like if we could have just lived in that, I think the whole game could have looked different. But that's kind of besides the point.
For sure. And when Easy had to go take care of business yesterday, and KG filled in for him for the second half, and we brought up who we think is going to take the biggest leap on the Lions from last year to this year. And I brought up Kirby Joseph because of what we've seen him do already as a playmaker in that back end, adding guys who are sticky in coverage like Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, Terran Arnold, that is Rakeshaw, that he doesn't have to worry about kind of making up for their mistakes. I think Kirby Joseph is really going to shine, and he even has the potential to lead the league in interceptions next year. Like, what's your thoughts on Kirby Joseph's boom next year and what I think he could do?
Okay, so then I missed the beginning of that conversation with One Bar there because I heard him talking about Kirby Joseph. I actually love that pick, by the way. That's a great, because even last year, like in a way, you kind of felt like, was he taking a little bit of a step back this last season? And people would question, like, is he getting too aggressive? Then when he had CD Deuce in the mix, there was just like, it was unclear at times who was even the other safety. Like if he took off, so it's like, who's the other safety? There feels like there's a rotation here. So I love that though, because you're right. Like, he hasn't lost that ability. I mean, he had the surgery this offseason, so hopefully he's coming back healthier, things like that. But he hasn't lost that ability to have the range that he has in the back end. And what he clicked for me was that he showed real ability to step down and play man coverage. Like I felt like with Walker for a long time, it was like that's something we're trying to add to his game because we want that flexibility. And if he just has that kind of naturally because he was a corner, but Kirby Joseph's ability to carry that immediately over was there. But where he separates for us already is, like you said, he's taking the football away from Rodgers. He had the range. I mean, he looked natural back there. He had some savvy to his game. I love that pick. Actually. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Dion, we did our, like he said, we did our all NFC North team. I feel like the offense is pretty spot on. Outside of obviously had the arguments with the quarterback.
Yeah, ours were exactly the same except for the quarterback.
Yeah, was there? No, because I know exactly what you're going to say. Hawkinson, Laporta, you taking Laporta in that situation too?
I would take Laporta, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys took Laporta, right?
Yeah, we did.
What about the running back situation? I mean, they had, they still got Aaron Jones. Josh Jacobs is brought into the mix. Mm-hmm. We both had Jahmyr Gibbs, but are you going with him as well?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, Josh Jacobs is legit, man. Josh Jacobs makes that thing interesting because to me, Jahmyr Gibbs had so many things that we didn't tap into last season. Like, I mean, if you were going based on what has he done for me so far, I think you'd have to go Jacobs. But for what you guys are saying, saying for next season,
yeah,
I think you go with Jahmyr Gibbs because of how he finished. Like as a running back, just the vision, the patience, it seemed to kind of come along. But then it was even just the flashes. It's like, why don't we use this guy more in the pass game? Like I was just like, why don't we throw this guy the ball more? And then we started to, and in the playoffs, it was like, oh my goodness, this guy's incredible there too. So I like that pick going forward. I think what they've done so far, though, you'd probably go Jacobs.
Jacobs?
Yeah.
I'm still taking Gibbs.
He doesn't like Josh Jacobs at all.
I think he's like, he's not great. I don't understand like the hype around him at all. I really don't. Really don't understand.
Okay, easy. But to what you just brought up about their offensive line, like the offensive line that he's been behind recently, and what he's done with that offensive line. I mean, he's the guy that makes that thing go, in my opinion, for that whole run game. I'm with you on Gibbs going forward. I just think what they've done, you go Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I guess when I did my list, I was going up because like the way you do all pro is like that season. So the way I did my list was off of like the 2023 season. And the way Jordan Love ended that season was like scary for those Lions fans.
He looked pretty damn good at the end of the year last year.
I just don't see like where you put him behind this offensive line, and like it's not nasty.
I had the same argument with you as you, Deanna. Like I need to see him do it again.
And that's fair.
I need to see, like, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks come in, have one great year, and then kind of fizzle. Because once the league gets, a full year of tape on you, it's definitely a different beast out there. So I need to see Jordan Love do it again before I'm going to put him over Goff.
That's
absolutely
fair. That's fair. My whole thing, I mean, obviously brought up the numbers, the touchdowns, turnovers, and then like Lions, better offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It's better offensive weapons with running back, receivers, and tight end. Like, you'd cook. Deanna, I know you and I, we've been kind of doing our streams on Tuesdays, and we've been talking more draft stuff. I haven't really got to talk to you about the NFC North as a whole. Who do you have as our biggest threat to win this division?
Yeah, this is a good question. So this has changed on me. This changes on me a lot, but for me right now, it's Chicago. I think Chicago's the other team. I think Green Bay is definitely the safest bet because Green Bay doesn't typically have a lot of variance. Like, you don't go from year to year and expect Green Bay to just fall off. That doesn't happen. And they also don't have a lot of moving parts. So there's no really reason to believe that they will fall off. But I really do think where Chicago's at, and easy, I know that we've talked about this, right? The defense that they have, I think for every team they're going to give problems to. And because now they can play, they're going to believe that they can play a different game. We'll have to see if that's there or not, but they're going to believe they can play a different game than what they were able to do last season with Tyson Bagent. They have guys rolling in and out of quarterback. They can't trust their passing attack. I think for that team, for the Lions specifically, they're going to be a problem because you already know going to Chicago to play outside, if it's not early in the season, it's going to be difficult just normally. But both times they gave us a run last season, I think their defense is legit and honestly just got stronger. But offensively, what they've added, they have Rome Odunze is going to be good year one. Keenan Allen's going to be good year one. Caleb Williams doesn't need to be a great quarterback for those guys to be impactful. And they had a run game last season between guys that aren't even there anymore. And their offensive line wasn't like on paper notably great. So I think that they carry a lot of strength in a lot of different places. And I think that their head coach honestly got a lot of like hate last season, but I don't think he's done a poor job. Like when you watch Chicago, they know who they are. They play what they do schematically. I think they've done fine. They just haven't had the answers on offense. I think Chicago's the biggest threat.
This next year, you think they're a bigger threat than Green Bay?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd put Chicago up there. Yeah. Look, I mean, go ahead. Yeah.
No, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, like I said, Green Bay doesn't have a lot of changing parts, but I do think that Green Bay for us specifically, like I think the additions that we made are really going to help us match up with them. The cornerback additions, the emphasis that we put there, even if it was just Carlton Davis, would completely, I think, shake up what that's going to look like. And the second thing would be the interior offensive line, which is the other thing that I thought has given us problems against that team. They haven't really went crazy at cornerback. Green Bay has it, right? They had a little addition this year. They've had nice pieces. They usually play sound football. Their safeties can take the football away. So we know that they'll have that upside. They could just take the football away. But I think the Lions match up pretty well with them. And with guys like Zeitler now on the interior, if Graham Glasgow just plays better, which was basically his worst game last season, I think we match up way better against Green Bay than we do with Chicago.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that because that
rough matchup for us.
That's where Green Bay was getting all the pressure. It was on that interior, and now you got one of, if not the best pass blocking guards in the NFL. So,
how do you see the secondary situation shaping out, Dion? In terms, I mean, one of these rookies is going to end up starting, in my opinion. Which one is it in your opinion, and where?
Yeah, so I think Terrion's definitely going to start. It's kind of the boring answer, but I think he has to start. Terrion Arnold, to me, I'm not worried about the speed whatsoever. I think he can play in multiple coverage types. I think he'll start out wide for us. Carlton Davis, as long as he's healthy coming into the season, which he should be, he's going to start. Carlton Davis has proven it. I think you can just go look back at last season. Even though some of the numbers aren't there, that guy's a legitimate cornerback, right? He's also going to offset what we already have in that cornerback room well. So those two will start to me. I think Brian Branch is still going to start in that slot role. I think he just thrives there. But if the Detroit Lions, especially if they're going to say we're going to lean more and more man heavy, if they do want to do that and they want to see some flexibility, and this is where, the Kirby thing kind of comes into play, and at times they want to kick him more to safety. I know last season they did it against heavy personnel to put him at safety. I expect that to continue. But if they want to kind of like mess around with that and like, hey, we're going 3 receivers, but we're still going to go to safety and put you there because we still think that you could be great at that spot. And maybe we could limit even some of the questions that we have in man coverage from this role, because I thought he matched up with tight end as well in college. Then I think Rakestraw would be the next guy up. I think that he could start immediately from slot because I think he plays that anticipation. Obviously, you have Amik Robertson, but I like him more out wide. So I think what's going to happen is I think Terrion Arnold's going to step in. He's going to be our best corner. I think Mosley could start, but I think Terrion Arnold's going to be the guy that's just going to ultimately take over that role. He'll start opposite of Davis. I think Branch will be in the slot unless they start moving that around. And then your backups behind that will just be, it'll be Rakestraw potentially rotating in and out with Branch. And then I think you'll have Amik Robertson and Mosley as your backups out wide.
And the one position group on this defense that really stayed the same from last year is the linebacking core, because we saw all of those guys show out and have good spurts of play. Obviously, Anzalone was fantastic all year. Derek Barnes really came into his own. Malcolm, when he gets in there, does some things. Even Jalen Reeves-Maybin, when he's given the opportunity, he went out there and he made plays. But a guy in Jack Campbell that I'm expecting a jump from. I'm expecting him to be kind of the alpha in that room next year, because he's the best prospect. He's the most talented guy out of the draft prospects that we've gotten so far. What can you see from Jack Campbell going into his second year, having Kelvin Shepard kind of tutor him, and adding a guy like DJ Reader that'll help those linebackers?
When you brought up that you had Kirby Joseph for that answer, the guy to break out, it was like quickly in my head, like, okay, who would I have for that answer? And Jack Campbell was the guy that came to mind. So yeah. I think Jack Campbell linebacker position kind of feels like tight end, where we kind of view tight end as like, yo, tight end, man, those guys usually don't pop really. Laporta did, but they usually don't. But I think linebacker is kind of like that now. I mean, linebacker, they have so much on these dudes' plate and all the movement that you get. I mean, just look at Green Bay, all the eye candy that they're going to throw at you, all the movement they're going to have pre-snap. It's like, dude, you have so much to deal with now in coverage. And that's not even talking like, yo, what if you have a man-to-man responsibility? I think linebacker is one of those spots that could just take a minute for a guy to kind of come along. So Jack Campbell would be the guy that I'd point to take that jump, because he should come in next year after what Barnes did. And by the way, your guy Matthew Betts, I checked out Matthew Betts. I like him. So when you have Betts,
hell yeah.
Hey, I think he's making the team, man. I got to say that. Yo, when you got that man now in here, it's like, yo, Jack Campbell should sit into that off-ball role. You should know exactly what you want of him. He still has Alex next to him to kind of clear up any questions or anything like that. But now Jack Campbell, the biggest thing for me was in coverage. I just didn't feel like he was always comfortable there. We know the athlete was there. It felt way more comfortable at Iowa than it did for the Lions, where things just kind of felt like they were going by him. I think that kind of clears up. He's still got a unique skill set for the NFL. I think Jack Campbell will be my choice for that breakout player this next season.
I love it.
I love it too. I mean, there's so many guys that are eligible to break out. I mean, we've talked about it before too. Aleem McNeil with DJ Reader alongside next to him. You guys just got done discussing Jack Campbell, who's going to have so much more room and free lanes to run through with the addition of DJ Reader as well, which also helps out Kirby Joseph, Brian Brandt. I mean, there's so many guys that are eligible for these breakout seasons, man. J-Mo's going to get a lot more looks. Well, your guy actually just signed with the Tennessee Titans. You had a feeling it was going to happen.
Tyler Boyd.
That feeling was
cheap too, $4.5 million.
Yeah, that actually really surprised me. What was your takeaway from that?
You saw the text. I was a little disappointed. But I was disappointed by the number. I was like, bro, $4.5 million. What are you talking about here? And you already know it's like, bro, half this is gonna be incentives or something whack like that. Like, I'm like, come on, bro. Like, I don't have that money, but I'm just saying I would have put a little into the GoFundMe if that's what you're interested in. But honestly, like, that's what I'm saying. 4.5 million, especially on a 1-year deal. I'm like, we don't even have a long-term commitment here. I'm on board with that. But that's actually a great name, Jameson Williams, because Jameson did come along. Like, if there's anybody we could really point to is like, yo, he finished strong. Brought up Jahmyr Gibbs, but Jameson is a very easy one. And he showed up in the biggest moment. Like, J-Mo was the guy that rose when we needed someone to rise. So I think for him, it was like tracking the football specifically for where his like strength is. I think that needs to clean up. He's always been working on kind of like catch those little small balls over his shoulder at training camp. So that, but overall, like, you know, me and Easy, we've talked about this. It's like, yo, the timing within the offense picked up last season. It took a minute for it to work, but the timing started to come along. And now you're kind of in a position where it's like, you have to take that next step. We invested in you. Brad Holmes has done this really with every position we could point to. If he's put a legitimate draft pick, at some point, he's going to give you that opportunity to become that guy at that position. At some point, like, they're going to find a way for that role to open up for you. And that's what it feels like right now with Jameson is he has that opportunity. I mean, you know, I looked at, we have some nice, we have Peoples-Jones, we have Antoine Green, even Traquan Smith, maybe don't overlook him, but it's a clear role for him to just take over.
What was it about Betts that you liked, that you saw him making the team with?
Yeah.
The biggest thing, and I'm sure he saw this too, was the first step. I mean, this guy was electric off the line, and in CFL, you have it's a entire yard, right? That you have to be off the ball. It's not like the NFL where you can get right up on the ball, the neutral zone. It's different. So the amount of space that he has to play with off the line, yet the quickness that he's making guys every game at least one time, guys that just set a little bit slow. He's just burning right by him. I mean, I had limitations and flexibility, certain things like that, but he's smart. He brings coverage upside. So for me, I actually look at it like this. This is a guy, keep this in mind, he had a 6.79 3-cone drill, which shows off that big-time foot quickness and agility. Aiden Hutchinson posted a 6.73 when he came out, and that was like, oh my goodness. I mean, he was separating from everybody. I think that this is a player that could be very dynamic on pass downs. Put him in the interior, right? Let him shake against these interior offensive linemen. Let him kind of minimize some of the lack of flexion that's there and just show that elite get off. I mean, this guy blocked the punt just because he ran by the long snapper with some of the quickness right off the ball. So you get him closer to the line where he doesn't have to deal with giving you an entire yard. I think you get that. And then he has the smarts. He has the intelligence. He also has the coverage upside where he could at least battle for special teams role. And maybe I could be like the backup to Derek Barnes or James Houston in that early down role. But you can always find room for pass rushers.
That's for sure.
Just one real quick one, because I
got a quick one too.
Okay, cool. We'll go a little bit over then.
I'll go quick.
I have a man crush on Mekhi Wingo. I think this kid can almost hit the ground running if he's put in there in certain situations. Am I tripping on that? Have you been able to do a deep dive on him? I think this kid might end up being the steal of the draft.
Yeah, I did a semi deep dive. I'll say that. Like, to me, Mekhi Wingo, he checked he was just such a smart player. I mean, for a guy that's 284 to handle business on the interior like that, it shouldn't happen. He doesn't have big time length. He doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the height. Yet he's handling business on the inside because he played so quick to get into his spots. I just think that his football intelligence, similar to like a guy like DJ Reader, his ability to find the ball so quickly gives him upside. And he has plus shake. Like, he's shown ability to win in different ways. It's just been more in flashes than consistency. Biggest thing I'm wondering about him is he going to get more defensive end snaps like Brad Holmes brought up than playing in the interior? Because that would take away like the questions of can we put more weight on him, but it would also kind of I don't know how well that's going to work in terms of pass rush upside. Like, I think definitely on third downs you want to kick him to the inside, but no, he's smart. I think he gets impact right away.
And before we let you go, we talked about your guy Tyler Boyd signing with the Titans, and so it looks like barring some camp cut acquisition or something like that, these are the wide receivers they're going to roll with. How confident are you in Donovan Peoples-Jones to be able to step up into this offense and actually be a contributor?
Man, it's a tough one, man, because I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is just different. Like, I don't think we've had a Donovan Peoples-Jones type. I don't think we've had that since we've really seen the Lions with Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator. I think he's going to shake it up, man. It's going to be like a different sense. I think he wins in different ways, and I'm confident that he's going to add more of like, oh, you're trying to press this man one-on-one, he's going to go win that. You're going to get more consistent wins there. I think you have that. You have the tracking ability, right? You have some long speed, but I don't think that he's similar to really any type that we've really had, maybe outside of Denzel Mims, who we just didn't even see. So I think he's completely different, which is the positive is that he came along like J-Mo did, not to the same extent, but he started, coming up with receptions as the season went along. So I have reasonable optimism that's going to take a jump, but it kind of has to, unless Allen Robinson becomes a Lion or something.
Yeah.
Dion, what do you got going on this week? Where can people catch you?
Yeah, well, the Matthew Betts video, that's the next video, man. No Dose of Dion 2.0.
Hell
so
yeah.
That's the next one.
I want it.
That's for you. I was like, hey, coming on the show today. All right, that video's got to drop today. So yeah, that's the next one. And then, just keep diving into the draft picks.
Dion, appreciate you always, man. It's always a pleasure to have your genius on here. And shout out to supporting my Matthew Betts claim.
Hey, yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Hey, actually, I didn't even like him. I just said that because we're on the show. No, I appreciate y'all having me, man. Good to see you guys again.
Dion, always a pleasure, brother. We'll catch you later, man.